Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. I say good morning because I'm here in the UK, but good afternoon or good evening if you're anywhere else in the world. I'm Melanie Perry.
And I'm Julie Hyde-Mew.
And this is On the Couch with Creatives. Fans and followers of the show will know by now that we're part of the Creatives Group, the private network for creative professionals everywhere. Together, we help you create at your best, connect you with like-minded individuals, and therefore help you grow not only your creative practice, but your creative business as well. If that sounds like a good idea to you and you'd like to find out more about joining our growing network of creative professionals, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us after the show. We'd love to speak to you. But this is On the Couch. So Julie, who do we have on the couch today?
We have on the couch today NEIL MULLARKEY, a unique communication expert. You may recognize him from his performances in Whose Line Is It Anyway on TV and two Austin Powers movies. He still performs most Sundays with the Comedy Store Players, Europe's top improv troupe, which he co-founded with Mike Myers. But he now travels the world, bringing the skills of theatre and especially improv to corporate clients. His new book, In the Moment, has been described by Mike Myers as a creative masterclass for every moment. So let's bring him on the couch. Hi, NEIL. Welcome to On the Couch. Lovely to see you.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Julie. Hello, Melanie.
Hi, NEIL.
Well, let's kick off with, how did you morph from being a performer to being a communication expert? How did that happen?
There was a bit of push and a bit of pull. I was getting to an age where I was thinking, do I want to be slogging around the country being a comedian, going for commercials where I don't think the script is very good, or putting in ideas to the BBC and other broadcasters where they go, yeah, not quite yet, sort of thing. And it was frustrating in that world. And I discovered there were people using theatre and other arts in training. And it was, my wife was at a hen night and she was talking to somebody who was from a management consultancy who said, yeah, we could do with somebody who'll teach us improv. And I'd looked at various worlds where the skills that improv bring about listening, working together, being more creative, more collaborative, these skills are in demand. So there was another one, an ad agency who actually literally rang my voiceover agent. Why her, I don't know, but the gods were on my side, because I'd already talked to her saying, I feel a bit dissatisfied with what I'm doing. And I think this kind of training, corporate leadership development thing could be something I could do. And she said, great, NEIL can do that. And they said, can he write 20 minutes stand-up comedy on credit cards? Because that's the account they were repitching for. And first of all, she said, he's not a stand-up comedian. Secondly, you can't just write comedy out of nowhere. And 20 minutes on credit cards ain't so easy, but he can do a workshop for you. So there was kind of what I was feeling and two possible openings. And then I started looking for the openings. I noticed there was a business school in Oxford. A guy wrote an article saying we had a poet at one of our sessions about leadership. And I thought, well, if you're prepared to countenance a poet, surely you can have somebody like me, where the skills we're offering actually are how to have better conversations, how to work better together, and how to be more creative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember meeting you for the first time at Disney when I worked at Disney, and you were doing a workshop there on improvisation. And we've had this conversation before. You giggle, I know, but the whole word at that point in my career, the whole just word improv used to send me into paroxysms of terror. It was like rabbit in the headlights. What were you expecting me to just do something off the cuff? I can't do that. And then it unraveled into the whole, listening skill set, which was like, okay, I can cope with that.
Yeah. And also use the word I. We do ensemble improv. It's always two people. Actually, in the Comedy Store Players, of which I'm part, still perform every Sunday, there are 6 of us. And so I actually had a long conversation with somebody who teaches this as well at Second City in Chicago. Do we even use the word improvisation? Because improvisation is just make it up, see what happens. And improv has got a whole set of skills and structures, mostly based on listen to what the other person says, use what they give you, make the other person look good. That's quite unusual in business. And if you're thinking what she said, let's make that work, and she's thinking the same, that's quite powerful. So improv is the word I use to show that we've been around 100 years. All this stuff started. People might have seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? They might have seen Showstopper. They might have seen Ostentatious. But they don't know that it maybe started in Chicago with a social worker in the 1920s helping children. It was her son who said, wow, these exercises could work as a form of theatre. And that led to Second City being formed in 1959. A lot of those people went to Saturday Night Live. I'd heard of them because of the Blues Brothers. And then Mike Myers was selling tickets for a show I was in, and we got talking. We did a double act, and we formed the Comedy Store Players in 1985.
Wow.
And when you're in this troupe, do you just bat off each other? There's no script?
There's no script, but there are structures. What I mean by that is each game, we know what we're going to ask for. So one game is based on theatre and film styles. So people might have seen that on Whose Line Is It Anyway? But there are lots of people out there, I'm sure, who's never seen an improv show. It sounds weird, doesn't it? We say to the audience, we don't have a script. Give us things and we'll make it up. But we know who's going to be in the game. For example, the film and theatre one. They ask the audience, where are we going to be? In a laundrette. These two people start a scene in a laundrette. Establish the characters. Again, that's really important in improv. Establish who, what, and where. And that, I know, has helped a lot of people in a broader sense in terms of writing. Who, what, and where. Who are they? What are they doing? What do they want? And where are they? Those are good things to establish. And sometimes once you've got those, the scene begins to tell you where it's going. You need almost to listen to its own energy. But then when they've established that, I say, freeze. Okay, audience, please may we have some theatre styles, some film genres for them to continue. So they might say horror. And so the laundrette suddenly becomes macabre and dark. Freeze, let's have another one. Soap opera. And then suddenly they start doing Neighbours. G'day, how's your laundry? Sort of thing. And then it might be a musical. And we have some wonderful singers in our group. We have a lot of people who love to sing. We have a pianist at every show who's listening out. She or he is improvising as well. So we know the 6 people we're going to play. We know the games because we have a little running order. And I always point this out because I know Melanie says she was scared of improvisation. So am I. When I teach my workshops, I get there early. I've had a look at the space beforehand. I've seen pictures. I know who's coming. Some things need to be organized, structured, and prepared. And indeed, the Comedy Store Players, we start at 7:30. We finish at 9:30. The Comedy Store is organized security, insurance, tickets, food, drinks, so that when we're on, we can be fully free. We do ask the audience for particular things. So another one is based on emotions, physical positions. And we might even do a whole little musical where they're giving us the title and the genre. So you can see it's not just 6 people lumbering on saying, hey, we're going to make it up as we go. I mean, there actually are some people who will sometimes do a thing like that. There's a guy, TJ and David. They just get on and say, here we go. Now, that takes years of experience. I'm describing what's called short form. So it's little sketches. Other people do a whole show based on the suggestions, like Ostentatious do a Jane Austen improvised. And there are many others who do what's called long form, where you do one story based on audience suggestions.
So how do you take that theatre improvisation and put it into the office or the boardroom?
Well, as I say, it started outside the theatre, but I say to people, in your business, would you like to listen better? Yes. Would you like to be more creative? Yes. Would you like to be more collaborative, working with people who might have different ideas? And from that difference comes innovation. And sometimes the collaboration may be with a client, with their ideas. It may be with a supplier. How can we work together rather than diverging with different agendas? And I teach at London Business School as well. I call it leadership in the moment, because if you're a leader, often your leadership is that snatched conversation, that moment that may not be important to you, but turns out to be really important to that person, or in the finding out later, that was the moment that you understood something better. So I have 5 letters. I have a little acronym. All motivational speakers have a model, and here's mine. LASER. Listen, really listen and not just go, I'm listening and thinking about what's going to be on telly tonight. What shall I have for dinner? You listen, so you're thinking what she's saying, and then you accept what she's saying, accept the offer. We treat what people say as an offer. How can I use your offer, your little gift? And then you send one back, building up her idea, and she's doing it to you as well. In fact, we talk about yes and as our metaphor, as opposed to yes but. Pixar pictures, they talk about plussing, plus. You can't critique an idea unless you have a constructive way of moving it forward. Then the person whose idea it was doesn't feel, I've been criticized. They say, here's my idea. I'm putting it there as an offer. So laser, listen, accept, send it off, but explore assumptions. And this is really important in creative moments, and also when you're trying to work with others, because you have a bunch of assumptions about what could happen, what won't work, what has worked in the past, what they're thinking about you, what you're thinking about them. You have assumptions, and sometimes those assumptions need to be explored. I don't say, as I once was teaching some pharmaceutical reps, and they said, we know about this. Never assume anything, otherwise you'll make an ass out of you and me. And I say, well, we've got to assume something. Otherwise, how do we start anything? We may find those assumptions are wrong. We may find they're right. And then the last one, laser, is recycle. Every now and again, keep going back to what they said. Keep coming back. What matters to them? And actually, in the broader sense, sometimes an idea may be a reworking of one from a long time ago. All right, what did they used to do? Or actually, we're in the hotel business. What can we learn from Apple? We're selling cars. What can we learn from supermarkets? Sometimes you kind of recycle from another world. So again, there's a lot of skills to be transferred here, because I will always say to people when they start my workshops, just don't be funny. Don't try and be funny, because actually that spoils the game sometimes. And of course, funny is a side effect. And of course, the main thing I would say to people is let humor arise from the conversations. Let yourself acknowledge your vulnerabilities, your mistakes, rather than thinking, I've got to do jokes. So I've got a whole chapter on humor. And I'm saying humor, which is, look at her, isn't she funny? Look at him, he's not one of us. That's not humor. That's bullying. But when a leader says, let me tell you about the time I made a complete hash of things. Let me tell you my mistakes. Or, remember, gosh, this is so impossible. But, at least we got lunch. Just some little moments of humor that actually show that we're all human, all fallible, all vulnerable. And so you can see the applications are very broad.
I do like that, though, that I've picked up on your the acceptance and accepting what somebody has said to you as a gift. I really love that thought process, because so often people don't, and I think whenever somebody speaks to me now, I'm going to it's a gift, what you're saying to me. I just really love that. I love it.
Yeah, it sounds touchy-feely, but we're on the stage doing this for real. With an audience. They're not the stand-up midnight audience that you might get. They're much more interested in the theatre and the story, but it's readily applicable. Now, you might disagree with somebody, but accept that they've said that. If I say this, it gives you an inkling of how I feel about this, how I perceive it. And it's very easy for me to say, no, that's not what I meant. Well, that's what the other person heard. And I often get people to understand what I think I said isn't necessarily what she heard. So accept what somebody says. Now, we do that very quickly in the moment at the Comedy Store stage. If they said, good morning, Mr. Johnson, you're Mr. Johnson. If they say, I like your trousers, you're wearing trousers. They're pink. Oh, yes, of course they're pink. And that liberation of saying, she's going to guide me and I'm going to take her offers, I'm going to accept, and she's going to do the same for me. That is really addictive. And also readily applicable, because often people say we try our meetings, we're much more yes and. We don't say yes and, but the idea being, yes, I accept your offer and I'm using that to move forward. And if you want to be philosophical about it, accepting the offer first is a way to make the other person perhaps understand your point of view. Don't negate their reality. This is how we describe it in improv. Don't say, oh, no, you're not a chicken. Look, there's some cheese on the floor. You go, if you've said you're a chicken, you're a chicken. If you said I'm a chicken, I'll be a chicken. And that's the theater side of it. But if we understand that what she has said right now is how she's feeling, how she sees it, and that may be open to change, but I should start there rather than saying, forget what you're thinking, forget your feelings. Let me tell you what I'm at. And of course, I have studied many people who talk about influence. And in my previous book called 7 Steps to Improve Your People Skills, there's a guy from the FBI called Robin Dreek. Now he talks a lot about trust, but he says, listen to validate rather than to judge. And his book is called It's Not All About Me. And he says, listen to understand their goals and objectives, what matters to them. I may have a bunch of assumptions about you, about why you're different from me or the same as me, but I could be wrong. Let me hear what you actually say. Let me accept at face value what you say. And at least then we can start in the same place.
But this is a very mature way of doing things, isn't it, of communicating? Because if you look at situations where you have you're at a barbecue and you're having a political discussion, you know how awful that is, and everybody has got different things to say, and suddenly there's a huge big fight and somebody whips out a gun and shoots somebody else. so you know, that's a very low way of communicating with people. So you are assuming when you go into your workshop that your clients or the employees in that particular company are actually mature enough to take on board what you're saying and apply it.
Yes, and the proof of the pudding has been in the eating. Initially, they come from maybe where Melanie might have come from, which is, oh dear, comedian, we've got to do jokes. And I'm saying, no, don't do jokes. Co-create story. And you're right, it is a mature way of doing things because it actually accepts I'm not perfect. But most of the work I do is saying to people, how can I be a better leader? And that often means listening to your team or choosing sometimes when what they need from you is clear direction. But that's a dynamic we all have to work with. Sometimes I've got 2 teams who've just come together. How can we understand what their agenda is and how can they understand what our agenda is? Because actually, so much money is wasted. In my book, billions of dollars is wasted on miscommunication. I've said the wrong thing. I've used email. I've sent a text. I've got the wrong words. I've got the wrong platform and the wrong timing when actually I've said what I didn't quite mean to say, or I've said it in the wrong way that doesn't create the impact I want. But also, yes, and you say I'm mature. I don't know that I am, but it is understanding that you are not perfect. Yours is not the only perspective. Yes, and how do we have better arguments? Now, your barbecue where we all end up shooting each other. This is what saddens me, because most people I know will argue, debate, discuss in good faith. Sometimes in organizations, because of the labels, we think compliance, IT, sales, marketing, they're the good guys. We're the bad guys. They're the whatever. And you become tribal. And on Twitter, it's kind of, you know, if somebody doesn't agree with me, it's because they're a bad person. And I realize that most people would want to have a mature discussion. And much of what I would say, I pick up elements even from How to Win Friends and Influence People, which one of the first self-help books. But one of the things that he would say there is, don't have an argument. That's not the way to influence somebody, because the argument could be negating that person's point of view. It's a glib way of saying it, but let's agree to disagree is helpful. But actually, right now, compliance needs to be listened to. Finance, we need to do what they're saying because otherwise the company will go bust. Sales do understand what they're talking about, but maybe they've got to wait a moment. And so it's just that understanding that ultimately most organizations need all the elements to be working together and assuming good faith. And generally, the good faith is we're all trying to do our best and for the customer. And that may mean right now, you can't do my spreadsheet. I'll have to wait till Tuesday. Those are the kind of things that I would get people to think about. And as a leader, when do I, as I said, be directive? Because that's what they may want. And when do I step back and let them create their own ideas and then have ownership, which means they'll be much more motivated. And that's really a difficult dynamic. And I don't envy somebody who has got to do that.
Yeah, listening and acting without judgment, I think, can be very tough sometimes. And you mentioned Twitter, and I have to be very limited with the amount of time I spend on Twitter, or X as it's now called, because on social media people do tend to judge a lot, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of I mean, on my connections on LinkedIn, I have to admit we're a pretty good crowd, and we do have discussions and disagreements where people do respectfully agree to disagree. But on certain social media platforms, there's none of that. There's no, it's like black or it's white. And I'm thinking, how can people actually live like that? Because nothing is that black and white. You know, you agree or you don't, or you're absolutely foul if you think this. And thinking, oh, come on, guys, really? You know, it's like
well, that's why I like LinkedIn, because generally everyone behaves. We all know. Maybe it's because our employer might find out, or our future employer might find out, but it's kind of a sense of we're all trying to help each other. And as I say, nearly everybody I meet is accepting of different shades of grey. The older I get, the less I think I know. I understand that my perspectives are based on perhaps things I was thinking 30 years ago, and I'm now beginning to think, well, people who haven't had that will think differently. They've got a whole different set of assumptions. You know, I still find it weird that we can be here doing this. You know, my first word processor was an Amstrad. I learned to type on an East German typewriter. So there's all sorts of things that I know I'm culturally specific, and so I should listen to others. On the other hand, people should listen to me as well. And your point earlier is that to assume that the team are mature. I mean, I have to start there. I have to start that we find something within each person, each team, that is willing to listen to others, that is looking for the bigger picture, because ultimately it's better for all of us. And actually the bottom line is affected when we have miscommunication of some sort or another. It costs billions of dollars. I have a chapter in my book about meetings as well. And this is where a lot of this may play out, where people are repeating what they've said before, or they're hitting home a point because they want to beat her or him at something. And there's not a little bit of a sense of, well, what is the meeting for? What are we trying to produce from the meeting? And I have a whole kind of checklist, which is, should we have a meeting? Should it be in person or on Zoom or the dreaded Teams? Who should be there? Let's make it shorter, 25 minutes. Let's allow people to come and then go, because if they've done their bit. Let's think, actually, could it be a shared document? Maybe it's better just two people have a conversation on a phone or something like that. Or if we are going to meet in person, what are the special, joyous things that mean we can do something more productive? Because I know people working from home, when they've got certain work to do, they can really get on with it, don't they? They don't have to waste an hour going in to work and then coming out. They can stroke their cat, go for a walk, and get stuff done. So when we are in person, let's not just say, well, let's have a meeting in the meeting room. Let's what are we here for? Some companies say, come in, we'll give you sushi, we'll give you yoga, and kind of let's have something that kind of matches what the business needs. Because what are the special things we can only do face to face? I reckon we can earn a lot of trust from meeting people face to face. Before lockdown, one of the management consultancies, the big four that I work with, said they'd done some research, and they kind of global virtual teams need to meet 6 or 7 times a year for a day or two. And that's quite a lot, just because we co-create that trust. And I'm wondering if that's changed. I think we may have to think about Teams and Zoom and Google video calls, other video calls. How do we create that trust and an engagement when we don't have chance to meet face to face at all, or very regularly. And I'm committed to that. As you can see, for example, I'm standing up here. I want to make it energized. When we have meetings, I say things, put things in chat, show me what's in your background. I'll forgive you if you need to deal with a puppy or whatever. Bring the humanity to it and we'll create engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned your book, and we can see it on your shelves behind you. Tell us more, and more specifically, where can we buy it?
Well, you can, if you go to Neil Mullarkey /in the moment, you'll get the 20% discount, if you like, via the Code and Page website. That's the publisher. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it in bookstores as well. The book, I nearly called it Yes But, because I know sometimes the yes and the improv thing, let's be open and stuff, isn't the right thing. So, for example, today, you've set this meeting up. We had a time. You may well have had some ideas about where we should go. I knew when it was going to happen. Certainly, any presentation should be organized. If it's 10 minutes, make it 9.5. Don't just waffle. So there are some things where you need to be structured, organized. Presentations for sure, because I teach people presentation skills. They think I'm an improv guy. Just turn up, say what you feel like. No. If you've got 10 minutes, make it really good. Have a good start, a good end. Make sure you know what the audience need, what you want to give them, what they want to go away with. Get there, if it's live, get there early. Get there at 7 a.m. Do a sound check. Wear clothes that'll work if you have a mic attached to your ear. Don't stand behind the lectern. Don't just look at your clicker. Just sort of technical stuff like that. But also in the broader sense, people need structure. When are we going to have the office move? When's it going to be finished? Who am I going to be talking to? Who's going to be in the meeting? What is this aiming for? So that's why I say the Comedy Store players, we have clear lines. So there are times you want to be scripted. So I called it in the moment because there are times you want to be in the moment. That is what improv is, kind of 3-second moments. Where's it going? I don't know. I have to live with uncertainty. But those moments when you're talking to a colleague or a client, when you've got to suspend your judgment, maybe think your script could wait if you have got an idea where it should go, because you could unlock some wonderful moments, some creativity, some surprising, some serendipity, some unexpected things. But I also talk a little bit about the moment in life, because, for example, the moment in my life when I said, I don't want to be just a comedian. I want to be doing what I'm doing now, running my own little business, traveling the world, being asked to talk and share and train and coach. And that moment probably was 2 years when I was thinking, what is it I want to do? Shall I put some feelers out? So just accepting that life isn't just linear. There are times when you want to say, 6 months, just keep my head down. This pain will be over by then. Or I need to invest time going to college for 3 years or 1 year, or I've got to wait for my promotion. So moments I want people to think about. So the book, I've got chapters on improv, where I say why improv, why laser, my acronym, is helpful. I talk about creativity, collaboration, meetings, the human connection, again, which I've elucidated here, storytelling, which I'm getting lots and lots of invitations to speak about storytelling. Ultimately, when you come and see the Comedy Store players, we're creating little stories. It's the story of the chicken, if you like, or the princess, or the dragon, or that dark moment in the laundrette. But also there's the story of these 6 people. How do they play together? That night, what do we see them do? The story of that person in the front row who gives suggestions, because most people don't, but suddenly he or she becomes a character. So storytelling. I even have a whole chapter on serendipity, being open to the unexpected. Serendipity means kind of taking advantage of the unexpected. And that may mean sometimes things have gone badly. Oops, let's use improv skills to pick them up. Or actually that opportunity, if I wasn't listening, if I wasn't open, if I had a closed mind, then I would miss. And I actually got this from the chief executive of a very big global management consultancy, do a lot of technical stuff. And he said, I want my share of the lucky market. What he meant by that was there are some things that'll come on naturally. It's expected, it's sort of there. But are you kind of just talking to people? Right now, I'm excited to talk to you both, because Melanie, we met at Disney about 1 million years ago. And here we are now. And we planted a seed, and I feel I'm planting a seed now. I'll say yes to talking to people because I want to learn, because I'm 900 years old myself, and I'm still willing to learn. I want to learn. I know that that's going to keep me young and energized. So the book has lots of things that I also talk about the future. Will artificial intelligence take away our livelihood? I don't think so. I tell the story in my book about sitting next to somebody who was a software guy, and he said, you're doing exactly the right thing, because your improv stuff will help rapport and creativity. So far, artificial intelligence isn't there yet. It can collate existing thoughts, ideas, data into very well-argued things, but Richard Franch of the Comedy Store Players went to see an artificial intelligence improv show at the Edinburgh Festival, and it was not as good as a human. Even though they had millions of possibilities, they came up with not interesting choices, not left field ideas, not lateral thinking, or sometimes the most obvious thing. So that thing that we've done our 10,000 hours with, we improvisers, we've still got an advantage. So the book is about that. It's basically who's it for? It's kind of aimed at people who are just out of college. How do I master those soft interpersonal skills? People who are hoping to move up, to be promoted. How do I, once I've mastered my technical brief, how do I then look at the way forward, which tends to be, how do I diplomatically work with other groups? And then a lot of people I coach are people who are later in their career, director, associate partner. They want to go to the top table, and suddenly they've got to become entrepreneurial, be creative, be comfortable in their own selves and in the room with a tricky client, or being seen by the people below them as somebody to whom they should aspire.
Right, we know where to get your book. And how do people get hold of you if they want to book your workshops or bring you into their company to help them out? How do they get hold of you?
Well, neilmullarkey.com. Now, Neil Mullarkey is hard to spell, but hopefully it'll be in the notes with this. Neil, Neil, Mullarkey, as in mull things over, lark around, or up with the lark, and then key.
What's a load of malarkey?
A load of malarkey, but that's spelled differently. I say mull, lark, key to unlock potential. Hopefully there'll be ways of finding it. Certainly you can go to comedystoreplayers.com and you'll find me there. So the Comedy Store Players, we perform every Sunday, and there's certainly ways to find me via that, if that helps. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, all basically as Neil Mullarkey.
Yes. And I believe you have some top tips for us as well to guide people through the world of malarkey.
The world of malarkey, yeah. Well, I probably mentioned them already, but listen to people. Listen to young people, listen to old people, listen to people who don't agree with you is really helpful. I know it may be painful for you on X or wherever to look at somebody who's got a different point of view, but that's the reality they see. So accept that and see how we might find some common ground. Accept you're a work in progress. You're not perfect. That mistake you made, it's only going to enhance your learning if you see it that way, rather than, oh no, I made a mistake, I'll never recover. And the last one is find moments to laugh. You don't have to be a jokester. You don't have to be a comedian, but find moments in the same way you might try and do 10,000 steps or your 5 fruit and veg a day. Have you done a laughter audit? How often are you laughing in your team? It doesn't have to be laughing at jokes. There's actually the laughter club. They just sit around and go, ha, ha, and they laugh, and it becomes viral. But especially if you're a leader, you don't have to be a jokester, but find out when are the moments when people are laughing, and don't snuff it out, because those moments are when trust happens, creativity, and the enhanced collaborativeness as well. So listen and laugh and learn. Maybe those are the 3. Learn because you're just a work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're very, very valuable. And again, we had a lady that we interviewed, Sarah Kay of Laughter Yoga, and she teaches you don't have to be happy to laugh. You know, she does a whole range of exercises, and check out her YouTube channel if you need a dose of lifting up and to get those good enzymes flowing. Check her out on YouTube, and she will give you exercise to get you laughing and getting it all rolling. And it's the health benefits are tremendous to laughter.
Yeah,
we know that.
The psychological, the physical, it's a good workout for your lungs, getting all that oxygen in. And laughter, we know, connects people better than language. It's international, and laughter yoga is great because you don't have to think of jokes, but you get that communal sense of we're all together doing this thing, which means you can't have another emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. The moment you find something funny and somebody you've just met also finds it funny, that it's an immediate connection.
I always try and catch somebody's eye when there's something in the street or in the elevator, just to see if we can just get, or the tube, just a moment of connection, which is, yeah, it is a bit weird, but let's share it.
Yeah, I like that. Right, we've come to that point in our show where we are going to delve more into that psyche of yours, and we're going to ask you to play a little values jam game where I've got my little cards, my lovely cards spread out. I'm going to run my finger along my cards. You're going to shout stop, and we'll pick a value.
Okay, stop.
Right, let's have a look. What did you pick?
I don't know what she's going to pick, everyone. What if I say the wrong thing? Well, can we cut and paste?
There's no wrong answers.
There's no wrong answers.
Okay.
Just say whatever comes into your novel, really.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Creatively about it. But this is a good one, again, for everything that we've been talking about listening and accepting, and talking about, accepting other people's views. You chose forgiveness.
Oh, yes.
So, Neil, what does forgiveness mean to you? What does it look, feel, and sound like?
Well, the first thing is forgive yourself sometimes. I alluded to this. I made a mistake. Oh, no. And it's hard. I find people find it hard to forgive themselves. But real forgiveness, it requires work, which is accepting that this has happened. It was tough for you. They may not have meant it, or they did mean it. But it seems to me that if you can't forgive, it's really going to keep with you. And I know some people have had terrible things done to them. It's really hard to forgive. But when you read things like the Forgiveness Project, and you see people who have been opposing sides in wars and stuff, and actually making dialogue, you think forgiveness really is the answer. But it requires work. It doesn't mean negate or forget the, shall we say, less than perfect action, but it means working through how do we deal with it and moving on. I mean, time heals, but I think forgiveness is something that we should all think about. Many faiths and philosophies across the world do talk about forgiveness, but it's not easy. But if we can work with forgiveness, I think we'll feel better for it, and our relationships will be better for it. It's actually also, it's kind of like a muscle. Forgive that person right now. The dishwasher. Did you have to stack it that way? Okay, I forgive you.
It's a conversation we have in our house quite a lot, because my husband can't stand the way I stack the dishwasher.
Yeah, because also sometimes they flip up the wrong way, don't they? Little things. Sometimes you might put something and kind of what you need to jam it in. You need to really jam in so it doesn't flip. But the number of times I'm taking there's some sort of yogurt pot or something that's got dirty water in it. But I forgive the gods of dishwashing. I know there are bigger things they have to think about.
Oh, marvelous. What if it had a sound? What do you think it would sound like? Forgiveness.
Hooray!
Yeah. Hooray.
Hurrah! Or phew! Or ah.
Yeah, the peace that comes from
within.
Once
you forgive somebody, it does lighten you. You know, the burden on your shoulders, the stomach twists. You know, you just let it go.
Yes, but again, it doesn't mean the thing that happened was for something to forget. It was kind of, I've worked it through, and I can release it, and I can release them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important. And say some people do have very big things, but if you can come out the other side, not to lessen the process of what's happened, but to come out, it heals you. Forgiveness, I think. It does. If you carry around the hatred and the distrust and the all the negative feelings, it ultimately is harming you more than anybody else.
Definitely, yeah, because you may never see that person again. So the only one that's dealing with that, the lack of forgiveness, is you.
You're poisoning yourself in effect.
I think so, yeah. But again, I don't say this glibly. This requires some work and some real reflection, and isn't always isn't easy, because our natural reaction tends to be, I want revenge. And I accept that's tough for some people who've had really tough moments.
Absolutely.
And what's the other question, Melanie? Was it, what does it smell like? Or
what does
it smell like?
What does it smell like? Yeah, forgive us. What does it smell like?
Oh, I think it smells like the countryside.
Oh,
I think it's just easier to forgive when there's natural beauty. When you think, I'm just a thing that'll eventually disappear, but look at these trees and these mountains, and actually, I'm smelling the sea right now. I'm smelling the sea. So maybe it smells like the sea, because it can wash away our toxins.
Yeah, the lovely ozone, invigorating ozone. Absolutely. That's a lovely note to end our show on. Much more positive note to end our show on. So, Neil, I'd like to say a huge thank you for spending your time with us today. It's been wonderful to talk to you, and we must talk again more in the future. It won't be another billion years before I get in touch to have a conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. And if you would like to come to the Comedy Store Players, let me know. On Sunday, we're in central London. We're actually doing a Wednesday, December 20th and Monday, January 1st. But normally it's just Sundays. So it'd be lovely to see you. If any of your viewers and listeners are going to be coming, let me know. I'd love to say hello. And we take photographs on the stage afterwards to put on social media.
Fabulous. We will make sure that we put that out everywhere. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much, Julie, for joining me on the couch as well. And thank you to it has. Thank you to our lovely
thank you both
for tuning in.
Thanks, Neil. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.